inaugural time trial designed to establish the starting order for the next day's racing over a daunting 55 kilometers, the ever-improving Brandon Harkis and his co-driver Jean Moore in the Ford Ranger were a little disappointing, hitting a piece of earth quite solidly.
Good shot. Okay, there you go.
Right.
On the other side of that coin, Nissan's former champions Duncan Foss and Rolf Pitchford were flying along, clocking the fastest intermediate times. And they streaked by stricken Harkis. Foss's teammate, the four-time national champion Grobler and his co-Jordan were as always on a search and destroy mission and were chasing their counterpart as hard as they could. They were just a few ticks of the clock off the pace. For the Class D champions, Manfred Schroeder and Ward Huxtable, there were some very promising signs since they've stepped up to the SP class. And for the Castrol Toyota Hilux with Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin aboard, there was the same as they were within a minute of the pace. SP champion Woolridge was desperate to open up his points account, and it was even bad for business for the Maritzburg man. For Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar and their Century Properties Nissan, there was a solid, if unspectacular, sixth place in class looming. They clocked 47 minutes and 29 seconds for the 55 Ks of quick punishment. The Norwegian driver Ivar Tollefsen and his sidekick Englishman Quinn Evans were fast becoming used to the all-South African conditions, and there was a 7th place in the SP class for them after a good drive. In the Castrol Toyota, Bevan Berthold and Robin Houghton, there was trouble as they first lost their power steering and then started overheating. They were almost 5 minutes off the pace. What was also clear was that the route was very well marked. Just notice all the orange stickers pointing the way. Describing the route as a car breaker, Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst went easy on the prologue, trying to save their Castrol Toyota. But in Class D, Cliff and Louis Weichelt were going as fast as they could. They won the prologue, but only just by a scant 6 seconds. The Raconics men Kutsiala Beskachny and Johan Gerber in the Nissan went very well, but just after this, unfortunately Gerber was called back home because his home had burnt down. That left Kutsia doing the solo business. The unusual-looking Chevrolet with Herman de Villiers and Willy Prinsloo, the organizer of the Ford Motorrad Limpopo and Ford Carnival City 400, won Class S with oodles of time to spare, despite this little wrong slot. Coming off a fine win in KwaZulu-Natal, the husband and wife duo of George and Sharon Balkhuizen were well down the order and deeply disappointed. In Class E, Thomas Rundle and Brian Roberts and their Baden Tyres Nissan were solid, just 23 seconds off the pace. But after the 55 Ks of prologue, it was Duncan Foss and Rolf Pitchford who were triumphant by 7 seconds over their stablemates Grobler and Jordan. Schroeder and Huxtable impressed by taking third, a minute down. In the special vehicle category, there was some really tight racing. Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau in the Total Motorsport Porter set a cracking pace, and the rest were holding on to their coattails. And the Harpers were along for the ride. The Atlas Copco sounded in good working order. Their teammate Gary Bertelt and Henry Costain in the second Atlas Copco were right there too, just 2 seconds further back. And the ever-consistent Karl-Heinz Silvold and Quinton Silvold amazed by clinching 4th place in their Zarko, just 37 seconds further back. Musaji and Bodhanya did their new sponsors proud by taking 5th 90 seconds further. While reigning SA champ motorites Alfie Cox and Henny Terstegen were only 11th, feeling out the 3rd generation back gingerly. The Cries took 20th overall and first in Class B, while the end of the prologue came for Thompson and Blakey, missing a left back wheel in action. Johan and Etienne Besaidnout in their Denko back took 2nd in Class B, 48 seconds off the Cries. With the Century Properties development bat of Ernest Corbett and Roy Goosen also in close and quick attendance. Richard Schilling and Chris Davies in the Plastotech Aceco have been very consistent for a long time, and they again proved it by winning Class S convincingly. From Glenn Gibson and Mark Whitehurst in their Absolute Aceco, who stopped the clock at 51 minutes and 1 second. While Bez Besaidnout and Johan de Bruin in the second Edenko bat were 3rd in Class B. But the spoils went to Variawa and Rousseau, who led the first 5 cars home all within 70 seconds. And remarkably, the Class A cars all took the places in the top 10. But once the prologue had been dealt with, then the mechanics, technicians and rebuilders earn their keep again. The 55k time trial is always tough on the cars, and then it's assess the damage, make a plan or two, and then start repairing. And there's always a lot of graft going on in the pit area. Henry Zermatten in the Rowby Nissan had burnt out the gearbox the night before, then a myriad of problems beset them, putting an end to their challenge. But as the sun set at Sun City, they knew the next day would be a hard one. We continue after these.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going the extra mile.